Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast with Michelle Chalfant, a place to delve into who we are, how we got that way, and explore what it takes to be a healthy grown-up. With an extensive toolbox and guests with varied expertise, Michelle will lead us on a journey to learn what it's like to live authentically and to love ourselves just the way we are. And now, here's Michelle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. I am Michelle Chalfant, sitting here in my adult chair in Charleston, South Carolina. Actually, we are not in Charleston. We are on the beaches of Charleston. We are in Isle of Palms, South Carolina, my absolute favorite beaches, probably in the United States. I love these beaches, and we are sitting here probably writing and working on various things for about 14 hours a day, but at least we get to look out over the ocean, and holy moly, it's so relaxing, and the inspiration just comes through when you're in this relaxed state. So it's been an incredible business trip thus far. But what are we working on? Are you asking? Are you thinking? In case you missed it last week, we're working on the Adult Chair Certification Program. We're just putting the finishing touches on that, as well as a lot of other writing we're doing, but that is our goal, is to finish that by the time we leave here. The Adult Chair Certification Program is my baby, and I cannot wait to launch this. If you missed it last week, we announced that the application process is open. We are closing it March 15th. So if you are someone that just loves the adult chair and you're thinking about becoming a coach, now's the time. Please come join us. I need you. We get hit up every single week from people all around the world that really are looking for someone that's trained in this model. That's what the certification program is all about. So come join us. I do not care what your background is. You can be a coach or a therapist, but you can also be a stay-at-home mom. I'm going to teach you and immerse you in the adult chair for 6 months. And it kicks off in June with a 1-week training in Nashville. And after that, you are going to continue on and you are going to learn this model inside and out. So then you are going to be an extremely well-qualified coach to then have your own business. So all the details are on the website, theadultchair.com/certification. The only prerequisite is that you take the Adult Chair Workshop. And if you've not taken that yet, the good news is we just put another Adult Chair Workshop on the calendar. It is going to be in Nashville, April 2nd through 4th. So if you're interested in becoming a coach, you've got to take that first, and then you can take the coaching certification. So if you want to check out the Adult Chair event that's coming in April, just go to theadultchair.com/events and all the details there. We'd love to have anyone come to that event. So anyway, moving on. We have a fabulous sponsor today, Bombas. Let me ask you a question. How often do you think about your socks? If you're like I used to be, not very much at all. I recently discovered socks, though, that have changed the way I think about socks. They're called Bombas. And I just have to tell you, I ordered some of these Bombas for myself and for my husband, and even he has had his life changed by socks. I did not think it was possible. They're the most comfortable socks I've ever put on my feet. And they're soft, they're cottony, but the thing that I loved right away when I put them on, they have a little hug in the middle of the arch. It's like a little tiny little arch support. Oh, love them. They don't slide when I walk. You know, I'm a big walker. I'm a big hiker and walker and speed walker. My husband's a big runner. He loved the socks as well. He asked me to order more, which I did. So I want to give you that chance as well. You can buy your own Bombas, and today you get 20% off your first purchase. So buy your Bombas at bombas.com/adult today. Get 20% off your first purchase. That's Bombas, which is BOMBAS.com/adult for 20% off. Bombas.com/adult. All right. So we are going to get to it. Today we're talking about how do we know and grow self-love. You know, someone had reached out, I think it was in the membership group actually, that's asked me, how do I know if I have enough self-love, or how do I know if I love myself? Like, what are some signs? I thought it was such a great question. And being that it's the month of love, I could say it's the month of relationships, but I feel like it's the month of love. And this is why I thought it was the perfect time to do this. Even if you're not in a relationship, you are in a relationship or with another person. You're always in a relationship with yourself. And in my opinion, self-love is the most important of any kind of love out there. You got to love yourself, people. You got to like yourself, but loving yourself is pretty darn cool because let me tell you, I've done the opposite and it does not feel good. So that's what I'm talking with you about today. So I'm going to get right to it. And I have, of course, let me count. I think it's 5 steps. I should say 5 keys and not steps, but 5, let's call them ways to know and grow self-love. So here we go. I'm going to start out with just a little bit of my story and why I feel the concept of self-love, which is very different, by the way, than bragging. People will sometimes say to me, well, isn't that bragging if I love myself? And I'm not asking you to brag. I'm not asking you to toot your horn. I'm not asking you to do any of that. I'm asking you to love and accept, or let's start out with liking and accepting and having compassion for who you are as an individual, as a human being. And I find we have such a hard time with all of those things. So because of God knows why, I mean, I could list about 1 million reasons why. People say, well, it's my childhood wounding. Well, you know what? We can focus backwards and in the past, or we can live in the now. And that's what I want to do with you guys is start thinking about what's going on right now and starting to make changes right now with how we're talking to ourselves and how we're treating ourselves. So I know I could say unfortunately a lot about this topic, or unfortunately or fortunately. I'm going to say it's fortunate because then now I get to know both sides of it. I was someone that for many years had the opposite of self-love. I might even call it self-hatred, self-loathing. That's how I know it so very well. That's how I know what self-love is all about. I felt for probably the first half of my life the opposite of self-love, which was self-talk that was very negative. I was not a cheerleader for myself. I compared myself to everybody else and I always fell short, always felt like I was coming up short. I felt like I did not want to be here. I remember being 10 years old thinking, I was getting bullied actually on the school bus, which as I was going through it, I didn't think it was bullying, but looking back, I'm like, holy crap, I was getting bullied. And I actually had thoughts. I remember being 10 years old, coming in and grabbing a steak knife and going, I can end it right now. And I didn't even think of myself as someone that was depressed. It was just the pain of like being picked on by this one boy on the school bus. I went to Catholic school, so he'd flip my uniform up every day. And of course, he like pushed me down and put his clarinet grease in my hair. And I think later on, I found out he might have had a crush on me, but going through it when you're that age, and it was really hard. And I remember feeling like so bad about myself and just really bad self-talk as I was growing up through my teenage years. That was happening when I was like I said, 10, I remember. But then I got older and didn't know what to do with all that internal pain as I grew up, and started to drink a lot in high school and college and smoked a lot of marijuana to numb out and felt very less than and defeated quite a bit and did everything I could, of course, to feel the opposite of that. And I did sometimes, but most of the time there was that sort of like a shadow that's following you around that's reminded me all the time of how bad I really was. I'm sure you guys have heard me say this in the past, but I'll just remind you. Damaged goods, that was my tagline. That's what I felt like on the inside, like I was really damaged. Definitely low self-esteem and confidence. And really, I was afraid of everything. I was really afraid of everything. So anyway, thank God I had this spark of light inside of me, something that I felt a calling since I can remember, just something that kept me moving forward. Thank God for that. Because I always felt it wasn't even a religious thing. it was a spiritual thing. Like I felt a connection to something bigger than myself my entire life. I remember even going to Catholic school and church on Sundays growing up, never missed church on Sunday, but it was something bigger than even that. And I felt that calling inside. But while I was growing up, a lot of these like thoughts that I had about myself, it was sort of like putting a wet blanket over that light that I had inside of myself, by the way, that we all have. So if you're someone right now that's listening to this with terrible self-talk or suicidal thoughts and all of that, or thoughts that where you felt like deflated or defeated all the time, you have that same light. You all do. Everybody does. And you might have a wet blanket over yours, but I'm here to tell you that wet blanket can move away. I'm going to talk to you today about how we do that. So that's what happened with me is I felt this calling on the inside to keep going and to keep searching. And I've been a seeker my whole life. I'm like, I got to figure out where is that light coming from that's inside of me that's pulling me forward. And that was my quest for my whole life. And I'm still on it. I will never stop. I can tell you that because it started when I was a child and it's never ended. So I've spent a lot of time looking at self-love. That was one of the things that was really the motivational calling factor, whatever you want to call it, for even me like taking this whole concept of the adult chair and creating it into a model. It made sense to me. And I'd gotten some of this for sure from one of my mentors, but took the information that I got. I'm like, I'm going to take everything I've ever learned for 25 years and take the original concept and build it up into a model. And that's what this whole model's about. It's my journey of all my teachers and mentors and my own personal trainings. And I've put it into this model and created this model of really, it's self-love. It's a model of self-love and self-compassion. And I'm going to talk to you about how I did that for myself and how we can apply this model so you can have the same results. So how do I know self-love? Such a big question. One of the ways that I know, and I noticed, I should say way back when in my 20s, when I noticed that things were starting to change for me, was when I started speaking differently to myself. I noticed that my words were softening. I was speaking with kindness a little bit. In the beginning, remember, it's a little bit. But how we know that we are loving ourselves is that we speak kindly to ourselves. We have what I call, we become our biggest cheerleader. We say things to ourselves like, hey, good job. You did a good job. You did a good job on that podcast, Michelle. And I'll say to myself sometimes, you know what? I'm really proud of myself. I'm really proud of myself for what I've accomplished. Or I'm proud of myself when my kids leave, when they go back to college and they'll look at me and go, Mom, thanks for everything. I really love you. And they'll leave. And I'm like, you know what? I really love those kids. I feel like I gave them everything I've got, and I hope that they do a really great job in life, like we all would hope if we have children. But I just feel like, you know what, even when they're not perfect, and God knows, they have definitely screwed up. But here's the thing, I'm not attached to really the screw ups, but I do love, and I'm not attached actually to when they do well. I really feel like that's their own internal soul guiding them. But when they love me, when they leave, and I go, wow, look at me. I'm so blessed. I feel good. These are good kids. But it's a good thing to speak kindly to ourselves. And even when my kids have screwed up, they have. Good God, they have. They've gotten themselves in some major trouble, both of them, here and there. And even when they screwed up, I still said to myself, you know what, though? I still did a good job. Like I gave it everything I've got. And that was perfect. So I just want to remind you guys, if your kids are screwing up or if they've turned out like not what you thought, not how you thought they were going to turn out, you still did a good job. So pat yourself on the back, because you know why? I really believe we do the best we can in every single moment. It's okay. Give yourself grace. You've got to give yourself grace. No one else can do it for you. So say good job to yourself and do the best you can every single day. You got to love yourself in that way. That's how we do it. You are in charge of your life. You are the one that has to take command of what you're saying to yourself. That's what I realized. I call it I have a phrase for what I was doing when I was growing up, like in my teens and 20s. And that is that my thoughts were going rogue. They were having a free-for-all. They were just going rogue. My thoughts were so bad, and I just let them go, because when in my teens and 20s, I didn't know I could say stop enough. So start doing that. Start speaking kindly to yourself. Be intentional about what you're saying to yourself. Are you being intentional? Are you saying to yourself, good job? Hey, look at you. You got up on time, and you went to work on time, and you showed up on time, and if you're someone that doesn't show up on time, what do you need to say to yourself so you start showing up on time? That's what our adult would do. Show up on time. Be intentional. Give yourself forgiveness. It's okay. You got to start saying to yourself, you know what? It's okay, because I did a really good job. I did the best I could. So speak kindly to yourself is number one. We want to take slow, small bites, remember. So if I meditate today, I might say something like, I'm really proud of myself. Like today I did meditate. I'm like, I did my meditation today and 10 minutes of gratitude. I'm like, woo, good job, Michelle. Made my bed. And I got up on time, and it sounds like such simple things. But when we start with these simple, tiny things, guess what happens? It's like an avalanche. It builds. And we start laying these new neural pathways. It feels really good. It's like, oh, so then the next day I'm going to look again for what I did right. I'm going to validate myself for these little things. And then that builds. It's these little small victories throughout the day that we want to notice, because typically we don't pay attention to those. We only look at and we focus on what we think is wrong. So what about like I was on time for my meeting today? Good job for me, because not everybody is. I know a lot of people that don't show up on time. Start praising yourself and saying good job when you do. Okay, number 2, how do I know and grow self-love? I take care of myself. I put myself to bed on time. And I get enough sleep. That is so important. How do you take care of yourself? I hear more often than not, people say to me, I need to take better care of myself. When are you going to start? When are you going to start? I remember sitting up and like working on my laptop till 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, oh God, I should really go to bed. And I'd push. And I'm a morning person, you guys. I hate nights. But when I have so much work to do, I have to stay up till sometimes 11. I stopped that. I'm like, nope. I can't do that, because then I can't fall asleep. So I'm really careful about making sure that when I go to bed, I'm going to bed on time. I'm putting myself to bed around 10. I want to be in bed by 10, 9:30, 10, and lights out. And then I wake up at 5 or 6. I'd much rather do that than push myself when I feel yucky. So you got to take care of yourself. Another way to take care of yourself is to pause before you answer. I was somebody that would always say yes right away. Yes. Do you want to go to the party? Yes, of course. And then I'd realize, no, I don't want to go to the party. And I'd backpedal to get out of it. Now I say yes or no after I pause. That's a way that we take care of ourselves. That's an internal boundary. Gosh, I've been talking a lot about internal boundaries lately. They're so important. That's how we take care of ourselves. A lot of us weren't raised with having internal boundaries, and internal boundaries are so important. Slow down. And if you aren't great at this, it's okay. Be easy on yourself. But please do practice and become aware of what you're saying and mean it. And you got to mean it. If you don't feel well and you're exhausted, take a break. Take a nap. Do you need to go to the doctor? Do you need a supplement? Do you need a massage? Do you need to eat something? Take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. These sound so simple, but they're really ways that we show ourselves that we love who we are. This is self-love. Setting boundaries. Oh my gosh, so important. Talking about taking care of yourself. That's what I'm talking about. Internal boundaries. That's the next one, number 3. This is key. You have to remember internal and external boundaries. Saying no to someone or walking away or saying, please don't talk to me like this, or this is not okay with me. That's the external boundary. That's necessary with self-love, self-respect, and self-love. Learn to set boundaries. How do I know if I need to set a boundary? If it feels bad, there's something coming up. There's something to look at. So look at it and then set the boundary. Remember my truth about boundaries, bullet point boundaries, simple and to the point. They're bullet pointed. Okay. Number 4, I choose to enter and stay in only healthy relationships. If I choose someone that's not a match for me, I let them go and I'm okay. All right? It's okay. People get so upset about ending relationships. It's like sometimes, if we could just be really mature and healthy, sometimes relationships are just done. There doesn't need to be fighting and arguing and upsetness and resentment. And I don't care if it's a romantic relationship or if it's a friendship. It's like sometimes it's just done and it's okay. But when I love myself, I'm going to enter and stay, keyword stay, in only healthy relationships. Don't take things too seriously. Don't get offended. If you have to be in a relationship with someone, like a family member, and you're not ready to end it, just remember, if it's not healthy and you got to stay in that relationship, don't let it land. That's another boundary. Change it. See that person for who they are. Know that they have issues. Fill in the blank. It doesn't matter what their issues are. Again, no labels, just that they have issues. They're not capable of having a healthy relationship with me, and that's okay. But don't take it personally. I do much less of that now after all these years. And you know what? It's so freeing. Remember my uncle, who, by the way, was at our house all the time, throughout the week, every weekend. He was probably a psychopath, if I had to guess. Definitely a narcissist. Very uncomfortable to be around, abusive verbally toward my mother. I mean, all of this. And my sister and I, we had to take care of him later on in life. And we had to get to the point of letting it all go. We're like, we can go into this with so much anger about our lives because of him, or we can just go, and whatever. We got to the point of laughing about it. It is what it is. I can't change other people, but if I've got to be around someone that I don't particularly care for, who's really a sick person, I don't take it personally. But when I did, it made me miserable. When we stopped taking things personally, drop the expectations, live with preferences instead, change our perspective on those people, they're not half bad. Just I'm telling you, stop taking it personally. Don't make up stories and assumptions around these people. You will be much happier. The key here with self-love is to stay connected to yourself. So if you get around somebody and they make you disconnect from yourself, actually they're not making you, you're disconnecting because you're around them, you're letting them get to you, it's on you. Don't blame yourself, but it's on you. Learn to let their crap go. Now, if they're being abusive, get out. But if you have to be with someone and you're choosing to be with them, if you're choosing to be with them, you've got to learn how to let it go. I hear this from people that say, well, my daughter-in-law is a narcissist, my father-in-law is a narcissist, my mother-in-law is a narcissist, my mom is a narcissist, da 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 da. And I'll say to these people, in order for you to stay connected to yourself, you need to end that relationship. Is it that uncomfortable for you? Well, no, it's my so-and-so. I don't want to end that relationship. It's my fill in the blank. Okay, well, that means you're telling me you're going to choose to stay in that relationship. Yes, I am going to choose to stay in that relationship. Okay, so you also need to choose to let go of their BS, because you know you're going to get BS from them. And what happens is these people come back to me and say, well, they weren't nice to me. I'm like, well, you're buying into their BS. If you're going to choose to be in that relationship, you have to let their BS go. Cannot have both. We can't change other people. I cannot change a narcissist for you. I'm sorry. I can't change someone like that. But I can teach you how to set boundaries. And if you set verbal boundaries with some of these people, they will retaliate against you. So you get to choose. Do I want to be around them or not? Do I want to engage with them or not? But for one thing is sure, drop your expectations that they're going to change. That when you show up on that Sunday afternoon, they're suddenly going to be different towards you. And if they are, and it's temporary, it's probably going to be a temporary thing because they're just not in the mood to be an ass with you. Just remember that. To stay with self-love, there's a lot of self-respect that goes with that too. So remember that. I want to stay connected to myself no matter what. That's how I know I'm staying in love with myself. Okay. Here's another one. I check in with myself. How am I doing? I don't know because I haven't slowed down enough to check in. So I check in now with myself. Hey, something feels a little bit off. I've got a stomach ache, not lump in my throat. I feel agitated. I feel anxious. I don't know what's going on. The old Michelle, unconscious Michelle, high school, college, 20-year-old Michelle would just go, have some drinks. That would numb it out. No, now I've learned how to check in with myself. What's going on? I've got something going on with me. I might check in with my inner child. What's going on emotionally with me? Only I know what's going on. I must practice this. I must practice checking in. What's going on? Do I need to drink more water? I felt really dizzy the other night and I almost fainted. And I sat there. I'm like, what is going on with me? This is so unlike me. And I sat with it. I was talking with my friend and I said, I just literally had to sit down, put my head down between my knees. I almost fainted. And I said, I don't know. I'm trying to check in. I said, something feels out of kilter. And she said, are you dehydrated? It was like, boom, that's it. I normally drink a ton of water, but that day I'd been on the go. I didn't drink enough water. And I said, that's what it is. So I don't care if you're checking in with yourself emotionally, but check in with yourself physically. How do you feel? I needed water. I can tell because I do a lot of sitting, whether I'm typing or working on this or working on that, even working with a few clients here and there still. And it's like, I have got to do yoga. I know when I need to stretch. Am I stretching every day? Yes, because I check in. I'm wanting now to incorporate yoga every single day because I feel so good after I do it. So I've been doing an app on my phone. So how are you taking care of yourself? That's another sign of self-love. Okay. But we got to check in. The only way we're going to check in is if we slow down. We're moving so fast all the time. You got to slow down. So these are ways that I know of, that I have found that are different now than they were many, many years ago. Okay. This reflects to me that I have self-love. It's all of it though. It's like self-compassion. I like myself enough to check in, right? I love myself. It does not happen overnight, but the more I find that I practice these things, it starts to happen naturally. Okay. And I want to say this too. When people have a bad day, they've asked me like, oh, do you think I don't love myself anymore because I had a really bad day today? No, that's not what it means. Who cares if you had a bad day? We all have bad days. We have hormones. We have bad days. This happens. Some days I still have loneliness. Okay. And it doesn't mean I don't love myself. Think about this. If the sun is shining on you, and that's the love that you feel of yourself, that's the self-love, the sun is shining down on you, but then a cloud comes in between you and the sun. The cloud are the thoughts of doubt that we have, are the bad days, it's the loneliness that we feel, it's like that's when we feel bad. But don't doubt that you'll love yourself. It's like, I really like myself. I love myself. But I'm just having a moment. But then that cloud passes and it's like, whoop, I'm back to it. We have to become the biggest advocate for ourselves, the biggest cheerleader for ourselves. We just have to do that. Because if we don't, no one else will do it. You might have people that pat you on the back and say, great job. You did such a good job. You won that award. You got a promotion at work, blah, 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 blah. Great. And then those people leave, go wherever. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. I feel bad again. That's because we have to be in charge of our own internal self-dialogue. How's yours? What are you saying to yourself? What thoughts are you thinking? When you think about your future, what do you envision for your future? Is it doomsday? Does it look pretty bright? How's it feel? You truly are in charge of your future. You're in charge of your reality. You've got to take command and start having thoughts that are going to steer you into self-love, period. That's what I learned more than anything at all. It's my job to run my life and to create my reality. I really believe there's not an end point either to this self-love. I don't think we arrive one day and go, oh, I made it. Like you're climbing Mount Everest. It's like, you don't sit here and say, I made it. I'm at the top. No more self-love needed for me. I'm done. No, you got to keep going. Keep going. But all these things I went over, these 5 things today with you, that's how you know if you're loving yourself. And if you're not doing it, start doing it. That's how you grow it. It's all of these things. They make up who we are and how we take care of ourselves. And if we are liking and loving and having compassion, frankly, for ourselves. But you're in charge. No one else is in charge of this but you. It's time for you to take command of your life. And if you don't feel it in a day or two, please be easy on yourself. But I do know this. The more we get our lives on, we're on it. We have an end point. It's like, who do you want to be? You got to start pointing your direction there and you go for it. Remember, we did that the whole last month in the membership. It's like we go for it and we keep going for it. You don't stop. You've got to point your thoughts in the direction based on where you want to go and let nothing get in the way. And if that means you want to learn how to love yourself, then let nothing get in the way. No body, no thing, nothing, and no thought. Because your thoughts are going to steer you into a really positive place or a negative place. And I only want to live with feeling like I'm a good person and I love myself and I'm in charge of that. There you go. Okay. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope that helps you a little bit. But again, I feel like we come in and out of self-love. It's always there, but some days that cloud passes through and then it's back. It doesn't, some days it's just, we kind of feel yucky, but it doesn't mean we don't love ourselves. It just means we're like, we're just a little bit out of it today, but there's a constant underneath it. That's the sun always shining down. You know, when it's cloudy, the sun's still there. That's the love for yourself. Okay. That's all I've got for you today. Hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. Come find me. Love hearing from you. And don't forget the Adult Chair Coaching Certification. Now's the time to register, people. You got 4 more weeks starting June 7th through 13th here in Nashville, Tennessee. We'd love to have you. theadultchair.com/certification. Okay, everybody. Have a beautiful week. Signing off here from Isle of Palms, South Carolina, on the beach. Writing my book. Love to all. See you seated next week right here in the Adult Chair.